When I was 14, I lived in a small neighborhood tucked behind a dead-end road, surrounded by woods and forgotten railroad tracks. It was the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and if something strange happened, it was gossip for a month. We had quiet streets, an old playground at the edge of the trees, and houses that hadn't changed in 20 years. It was safe, or at least, that's what we thought. My parents both worked night shifts back then, my dad as a security guard, my mom as a nurse. That meant a lot of evenings I was home alone. I didn't mind. I had Netflix, microwave popcorn, and a dumb little dog named Benny who barked at everything from raccoons to shadows. It was a Friday night in November, cold. I remember it clearly because the air had that sharp bite that made your nose sting when you stepped outside. My parents had left around 6 p.m. and wouldn't be back until close to 4 in the morning. I made some mac and cheese, threw on my hoodie, and settled in for a horror movie marathon. At around 9:15, Benny started barking. Loud. He was pawing at the front door, growling in a way I'd never heard from him before. It wasn't his usual yap. It sounded anxious, alert. I muted the TV and walked over. Through the little frosted window at the top of the door, I couldn't see much, just a faint blur of porch light reflecting on glass. I didn't want to open it. I don't know why, but something in my gut said not to. Then I heard it. A knock. Not loud. Just a single, sharp knock. Deliberate. I didn't say anything, didn't move. But then Benny barked again, louder this time, and I heard a man's voice from the other side of the door. Hey, can you help me? His voice wasn't panicked. It wasn't rushed. It was calm. Too calm. I still said nothing. I just stood there, frozen. Then another knock. A little harder this time. I'm lost. My car broke down. Can I use your phone? I didn't answer. Instead, I stepped back and grabbed my phone, texting my mom. Someone's at the door. Won't leave. She didn't reply. Probably busy. I waited. Listened. Benny was still growling, pacing now, tail stiff, fur standing up on his neck. I moved to the window next to the door and gently pulled back the curtain an inch. That's when I saw him. A man in a red hoodie stood at the edge of our porch, not on the steps, just past the porch light's reach. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could tell he wasn't looking at the door. He was looking at the window, the one I was hiding behind. I dropped the curtain immediately, heart pounding. I backed away slowly and whispered for Benny to hush. My fingers trembled as I tried calling my mom. No answer. I texted my dad next. Guy on porch. Hiding now. Still nothing. I don't know why I didn't call 911 right away. Maybe I thought I was overreacting. Maybe I didn't want to get in trouble for making a scene. But that hesitation, it cost me. The doorknob jiggled. Not hard, just a quiet, testing twist. Then silence. I stood there, not breathing, every nerve in my body screaming. Benny barked again, and I picked him up and ran upstairs. I locked my bedroom door and crouched down behind my dresser, phone clutched in my hand. A minute passed, then 2, 5. Just when I thought he might be gone, I heard it again. A knock. Not on the front door this time. On my bedroom window. Music cuts to high-pitched tension hum. My heart stopped. I slowly turned my head toward the window across the room. The blinds were drawn, but I could see the faintest shadow. Someone was outside. On the second floor. Tapping. How the hell was he up there? There's no balcony, no trellis. Just flat wall. The only way up would be the giant oak tree next to the side of the house. The one my dad kept saying he needed to cut down because the branches hung too close. The tapping grew louder, then stopped. I waited. Didn't move. Benny whimpered softly in my lap. That's when I finally called 911. This happened in the fall of 2019, just after I turned 20. I was going through a rough patch, dropped out of college, moved back home, broke up with my girlfriend all in the same month. Mentally, I just needed to get away. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere nobody could find me for a bit. My uncle owned an old farmhouse in western Nebraska, surrounded by nothing but cornfields and silence. He barely used it anymore, just came out to check on it every few months. So when I asked to stay there for a few weeks, he didn't even hesitate. It was isolated. No neighbors. No cell service. Just one long gravel road leading to a wooden gate, and beyond that, an old two-story farmhouse with flaking white paint and creaky floors. There was a shed in the back, a rusted windmill that didn't turn anymore, and a tiny cemetery from the 1800s hidden by tall grass a few hundred feet from the house. It was exactly what I needed. I spent the first few nights reading, fixing small things around the place, enjoying the quiet. There's something calming about silence when you're used to the chaos of a college dorm or city noise. But on the fourth night, something changed. It started around 1 a.m. I was in bed upstairs staring at the ceiling when I heard something outside. A faint crunching sound, like footsteps in dry grass. At first I thought maybe a deer wandered close to the house, or a coyote. I got up, looked out the bedroom window. Nothing. Just moonlight on empty fields and the outline of the old barn in the distance. No movement. No sound. I went back to bed. A few minutes later I heard it again. Closer this time. Crunch. Pause. Crunch. Like someone walking slowly, deliberately. I sat up again. Benny, my uncle's old mutt who I'd brought along, was already up, ears perked, staring at the window. He growled low in his throat, something he only did when he was genuinely scared. I got up, flashlight in hand, and quietly moved to the window again. Still nothing. But the hairs on my neck stood up like I was being watched. The next morning, I found footprints in the field. Not animal prints. Human. Barefoot. The grass was pressed down in a line leading from the barn to the back of the house. I told myself it could have been old prints from when I'd walked around earlier, but I knew they weren't mine. They were too large, and I had been wearing shoes. I tried to brush it off. That night, I made sure every door was locked, windows closed. Benny curled up on the rug beside my bed and I tried to sleep. Sometime around 2:30 a.m. I woke up gasping. No nightmare, no noise, just something felt wrong. Like my body knew something before I did. And then I heard it. A knock. Not at the front door. At my bedroom window. Music drops out. Silence. I didn't move. Just listened. Knock. Then breathing. Loud. Shaky. Right outside. The blinds were down. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear it. Someone was there, inches away, just standing in the tall grass outside my window. I slowly grabbed my phone, but of course, no signal. No landline either. My uncle had disconnected it years ago. Then I remembered the back door. I hadn't checked the lock. I crept downstairs barefoot, Benny close behind, his growls low and constant. When I reached the kitchen, I saw it. The back door was wide open. I hadn't left it that way. I froze. Right then, I heard footsteps above me. Slow, deliberate steps on the old wooden floor. My bedroom. Someone was inside. I grabbed a kitchen knife and Benny started barking like he'd lost his mind, running toward the stairs. But I yanked him back. No way I was going up there. I ran outside, into the dark, into the cornfield. I didn't stop until I was halfway into the rows, heart pounding in my throat, hidden by the stalks. I turned around, looking at the house, and that's when I saw him, in the upstairs window, pulling back the blinds and staring out. He wore no shirt, no shoes, just old dirty jeans. His face. I was on a solo road trip trying to clear my head after a messy breakup and some family drama. My plan was simple: drive across the country, stay off the interstates, and stop wherever I felt like it. Back roads, small towns, gas station snacks. It was supposed to be peaceful, healing even. I was somewhere in western Kansas when I realized I'd driven too far without planning a place to stop. It was around 10 p.m. and I was exhausted, My eyes were heavy, and my hands had that dull ache from hours of gripping the steering wheel. So when I saw a flickering neon sign reading, "Vacancy, Sunset Inn," I pulled in without thinking. It was one of those roadside motels that looks like it's been there since the 70s. Flat roof, orange lighting, paint peeling off the walls. The parking lot was mostly empty. I remember thinking it was weird that none of the rooms had lights on, but I chalked it up to it being a slow night. The guy at the front desk was strange. Not scary, just off. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Big bags under his eyes, shaky hands, barely spoke above a whisper. He slid me the room key, yes, an actual key, not a card, and said, "Keep the curtains closed." I paused, assuming he meant for privacy or something. But then he added, "All the way, don't leave gaps, not even a little." It was such a weird thing to say that I just nodded and left. Room 108. I parked in front and walked in. The room smelled like dust and stale coffee. It wasn't dirty, but it felt neglected, like no one had stayed there in a long time. I dropped my backpack, turned on the bathroom light, and started getting ready for bed. But then I remembered what the guy said. "Keep the curtains closed." I walked over and checked. They were drawn, but slightly parted in the middle, maybe an inch or two of open space. I reached up to close them all the way and saw something move. Just beyond the curtains in the darkness, maybe 10 feet from my window, there was someone standing there. Music cuts. Silence. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't see a face, just a silhouette. Tall, thin, motionless, like it had been standing there for a while. Watching. I didn't move. I just gently pressed the curtains shut, step by step, until every sliver of outside light was gone. Then I backed away. I sat on the bed, staring at the closed window, heart pounding. I didn't hear anything. No tapping. No footsteps. Just silence. A few minutes passed. Then the handle of my motel room door jiggled. Once, then twice, like someone was testing it quietly. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just grabbed my phone and turned off the ringer. No signal, of course. I stood up slowly and locked the chain on the door, even though I knew the lock probably wasn't worth much. That's when I saw it. The shadow. It was moving behind the curtain, not walking, not pacing. It was swaying. Back and forth, like it was dancing. I turned off all the lights in the room and stood in the corner, hidden. The shadow kept swaying for what felt like hours. At some point, I must have dozed off from pure exhaustion, because I woke up suddenly to complete silence. No movement. No shadow. It was 4:27 a.m. I tiptoed to the curtain and peeked out. Nothing. Just the empty lot and the flickering neon sign. I grabbed my things and booked it out of that room. But as I reached the front office to return the key, I noticed something. The door was open. The clerk was gone. The desk chair was tipped over, and there was a coffee mug spilled across the counter. I left the key and walked out without saying a word. But just before I drove off, I looked back at the motel. All the curtains in every single room were wide open, even mine. I live in Oregon, about an hour outside of Portland, in a small mountain town surrounded by thick forest and rivers. I grew up here, and I've always loved hiking, especially in the fall when the trees change and the air gets crisp. There's a particular trail I used to hike, often called Devil's Hollow, a name that was more legend than reality. It winds through some deep woods and crosses a narrow old suspension bridge that hangs over a rocky riverbed. It was peaceful, quiet, isolated. Too isolated, maybe. This happened last October. It was a Saturday morning. I left early, parked my car at the trailhead around 7 a.m., and started walking. I wanted to reach the far end of the loop by noon, have a packed lunch near the river, and make it back before sunset. Everything was fine for the first few miles. Cool air, crunching leaves. I didn't see another soul on the trail. But when I got to the bridge, that old wooden suspension bridge that always creaked like it was one gust away from collapse, Something felt wrong. I stood at the start of it looking across, and there was a man on the other side. Not walking, not waiting, just standing there, perfectly still. He wore a faded brown coat. His hair was long and stringy, like it hadn't been washed in weeks. And even from that distance, I could see his eyes. They were wide, unblinking, locked on me. At first, I thought maybe he was just another hiker, but he didn't wave, didn't speak, didn't move. I waited. 30 seconds, a minute, still nothing, just staring. I shouted across, "Hey, you okay?" Nothing. I took one cautious step onto the bridge, and he stepped backward into the trees. I crossed quickly, heart pounding. When I reached the other side, I looked around. Nobody. The trail forks after the bridge. One path loops back toward the main trail, the other winds deeper into the forest. I took the main path, keeping an eye on the trees, but everything felt too quiet, like the birds had gone silent. I couldn't shake the feeling I was being followed. Every few minutes I thought I heard something behind me, a crunch, a snapped twig, a breath, but when I turned around, nothing. I stopped by the river for lunch, sat on a flat rock, pulled out my sandwich, tried to relax, but I kept glancing over my shoulder. At one point I noticed a reflection in the water, something in the trees behind me. I turned fast, but there was no one there. I packed up and started heading back. It was still early, maybe 2 p.m., but the clouds had rolled in and the light had that gray, washed-out look that made the forest feel older, emptier. Then I reached the bridge again, and he was there. Same man, same coat, same wide, staring eyes. But this time he was on my side, standing just a few feet before the bridge's entrance. Music cuts out. Silence. I froze. He didn't speak, just stared, his head tilted slightly like he was trying to figure something out. His hands were in his coat pockets. That's what scared me. I didn't know what was in those pockets. I slowly stepped backward, putting distance between us. He didn't follow, didn't flinch. Then I turned and ran. I took the longer road back, a side trail that circled the entire ridge, hoping I could get to the road and loop back to my car without crossing the bridge again. The trail was harder, steeper, but I didn't stop. Every time I slowed, I thought I heard him. Not footsteps, breathing, close, but always behind. I finally reached the trailhead at around 4:30 p.m., lungs burning, legs sore. I could see my car in the gravel lot, and just behind it, leaning on the hood, was the man. Music resumes, low, pulsing rhythm. I stopped dead in my tracks, heart hammering. He turned to face me, still no words, still no emotion, just staring. I stepped slowly toward him. Then I heard it, a voice from the trees. "Hey!" Another hiker, an older man with a dog coming up the trail behind me. This happened when I was 16, living with my dad in a small 2-bedroom apartment on the 2nd floor of an old building. We were in a rural part of Pennsylvania, surrounded by woods, far from any major town. The building itself used to be an old inn, long since converted into apartments with creaky floors and narrow hallways. Our place had only one hallway window, which looked out over a flat stretch of thick forest. It was winter. Snow blanketed everything. Quiet, heavy, still. I remember one specific night clearer than anything else in my life. It started simple. My dad was working late. He worked night shifts at a warehouse 2 towns over. I was alone. I had pizza rolls in the oven and a scary movie queued up. Just a normal Friday night. Around 10 p.m. it started snowing again. Thick flakes, soft and silent. I remember watching them fall through the hallway window. It felt peaceful. But then, something strange happened. I walked past the hallway window, just for a second, and noticed something in the snow outside. Footprints. Just one set. They came from the woods and stopped directly below our window. They didn't go anywhere else. Didn't continue down the path, just stopped. I stared for a while. No movement, no shadows. Then I turned off the hallway light. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I could see better without the glare. And that's when I saw it. Something was standing under the window. Music fades. Slow silence. Not a person. Something. It was crouched low, almost on all fours, but not animal-shaped. Long arms, a bald head, no clothes. Its skin was pale gray, like wet concrete. It wasn't moving. Just sitting there, staring up at my window. I backed away slowly. My hands were shaking. I went into my room, locked the door, and closed all the blinds. I tried to tell myself I imagined it, but deep down, I knew I hadn't. An hour later, I heard scratching. Not at the front door. Not at the back door. At the wall. The wall underneath my bedroom window. The scratching was slow, sharp, like claws dragging along wood. I wanted to scream, but I didn't want it to hear me. I didn't move. Just sat in bed, blanket pulled up to my nose, phone clutched in my hand with no signal. Then came the whisper. I swear to God, I heard a whisper through the wall. Not a voice I recognized, not words I could understand. Just breathy, faint, like a dying radio signal. It lasted for minutes, then stopped. I waited hours, literally hours, too afraid to sleep, too afraid to move. When the sun rose, I finally got out of bed. I went back to the hallway window. The footprints were gone, like the snow had swallowed them up. But something was different. The window was open. Just a crack. But it had been locked. I know it had. That night, my dad came home and found me pale and shaken. I told him everything. He said it was probably a nightmare. Maybe I left the window open and imagined the rest. But that night, he stayed up with me. Nothing happened. The next night, he left for work again and the scratching came back, but this time, it was on the glass. Music swells. Tension builds. I froze. The sound was like fingernails on a window pane. Deliberate, teasing. Then I heard a whisper. Clear this time. Let me in. It was outside my window. Second floor. No balcony, no ledge, just air. And yet something was there. I didn't look. I couldn't. I stayed huddled under my blanket, crying silently until the sound stopped. The next day there were handprints on the outside of the glass. Long fingers. Too long. No fingerprints. Just smudges. As if the skin was smooth, like leather. I stopped sleeping after that. I started locking every door and window 4 or 5 times. I put tape over them so I'd know if they moved. But they still did. Every time it snowed, it came back. Same whisper. Same scratching. Same words. Let me in. I moved in with my mom after that. Haven't been B.